This is the podcast that we ask our guests from in front and behind the camera, how did they get their foot in the door? What was the key to unlocking their success? What's their story?
Our guest today is one of Britain's finest character actors. Along the way, he's picked up an OBE, and he's worked with some of the greats, including Steven Spielberg, Guy Ritchie, Martin Scorsese, Michael Mann, and Mike Leigh. Join us as we chat about how he found acting by chance, getting turned down by almost all of the top drama schools, not letting his working class roots stop him from succeeding, and why he would like to do more comedy. Our guest today is Eddie Marsan.
First of all, man, thanks so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. I'm a big fan of your work, so it's exciting for me to get to chat to you.
Very kind, thank you.
Our podcast is all about, how it started, those first few steps, the stepping stones that kind of created this career. I mean, neither your mum or your dad, they weren't involved in the film industry. How did you get your foot in the door and get that first few, auditions or agent? What were the first few steps?
Well, I was dancing in a club in Hackney, because me and my friend Emmanuel used to follow Trevor Nelson when he was before he was on Radio 1. I think before he was on any radio station really. He used to have a sound called Mad Hatters, and he used to work in a menswear shop called Panesi on Bethnal Green Road, and I worked on a menswear shop called Bennett's Menswear. And Trevor was like a really bright, good-looking, intelligent, doing his A-levels, really bright kid, and was a brilliant DJ. So lots of the local younger people used to follow him around, when he played at a warehouse, or he used to play at the African Centre on Covent Garden. But on a Sunday night, he used to play in a club called Gray's, which was on Mare Street. And Emmanuel, I've known Emmanuel since I was 4, and he was 8, so he's 4 years older than me. We've known each other now for 54 years. He's like my older brother, really. He's still my older brother now. And he taught me to dance, and so I used to go clubs with him. And someone came up to him in Gray's and said, "Would you like to be an extra in a movie?" Because Emmanuel went on to be a model. He's very good looking, very tall, very handsome. And he said, "Yeah, but can I take Eddie?" And I was this like, I looked at about Emmanuel was 6'4", St. Lucian descent, so handsome. I was literally 5'6", little white guy, but I could dance with him. We used to dance together. And he said, "Can I take Eddie?" And the bloke looked at me and thought, "Well, yeah, you can take him. That's what we're going to do with it." And they took me on a film set, and I was on the film set, and I saw the film was called Empire State. Mm-hmm. Jamie Foreman did a scene where he walked across the dance floor, and he was so good in the scene. I was just blown away and inspired, and I just said, "That's what I want to do. I want to be an actor." And I was serving an apprenticeship as a printer then, but I wasn't earning much money, and I was working weekends in a menswear store in Bethnal Green. And the guy who ran it was a bookmaker, Mr. Bennett. And he said to me, "What do you want to do with your life?" Because he knew I wasn't happy being a printer. And so I said, "I want to be an actor." And he said, "Well, if you get into drama school, I'll pay for you." So that was an incentive to try to get into drama school, to stop being an extra.
Yeah.
I tried for years to get into drama school. Manuel helped me. We did audition speeches, but neither of us knew what we were doing. We didn't have a clue. And eventually I got into a foundation course at Mount View Theatre School. And from there I got into the full-time course. But every other drama school rejected me, and so they should. I didn't know what I was doing.
That's amazing. That is a real sort of chance kind of timing thing, being seen in a club and then being championed as well by someone, such an important thing.
Yes.
Yeah. That's incredible. Yeah, I was looking, I couldn't believe, because looking at your credits, I couldn't believe how long you've been acting. I was like, I feel like you're not old enough to have been around, because that film, Empire State, was 1987, wasn't it? It was like sort of, yeah.
I was 18, 19 then, yeah.
Yeah, wow. And then I noticed you went on and you did a lot of the rites of passage as an actor. You did a episode in EastEnders, your Casualty, like, The Bill, all these things that Grange Hill. Every actor has to have at least one of them on their credit.
Yeah, I was on the bill 4 times.
4 times, was it?
I was twice in EastEnders. I was a drug dealer, and then I was the head of the Wolford BMP, who I did Casualty. I did Grange Hill. The people in I come from Bethnal Green, and the people in Bethnal Green they didn't mind me playing criminals, but they always wondered why I played criminals that got caught.
Every time.
Yeah. Why can't you play a successful criminal? Because there was loads of them in the East End.
Yeah, amazing. Well, from those, those first few jobs, getting the agent, what was the sort of, did you obviously from that very first film, Empire State, was that a kind of, did you get your agent quite soon after that, or?
No, I had to go to drama school, and
So the drama school was the stepping stone to the agent. Okay.
and then I left drama school, and one of the things I learned very early on in drama school about how my career would map out was drama schools are like businesses, really. They pick certain actors who they think are going to be the most successful in their year based on the fashions of the time in the industry. And Mountview, they were very kind to me. They gave me a scholarship for my final year, so we didn't have to pay for it. But they had their idea of who was going to be who was going to get a job at the RSC or the National, who was going to succeed, and it wasn't me. I was the one who played all the small parts and I had the quick changes and everything. So, but I realized even then I realized because I never entered into acting from an academic point of view or from any kind of history of acting or the show business from the family. I was actually working for a bookmaker. So I had a very, very clear, analytical, unromantic view of the business. And I knew very early on that by the parts I was being cast in drama school, if we were doing a Chekhov, somebody would play the attractive, enigmatic young man who's full of angst and shoots himself in the final act. And I played the old man with gout who brought on a tray of tea or something, And so I knew very early on that that in essence, men wouldn't want to be me and women don't want to sleep with me. So therefore, I won't be asked to be me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Wow.
I'm not a wish fulfillment character. I'm not going to be an avatar for somebody's wish fulfillment. I'm going to have to be somebody else. So I'm going to have to play many different parts. I knew very early on that my career would last longer if I became diverse.
Mm-hmm. How much more fun is that, though?
It's much more fun. I mean, yeah, it's brilliant. I love it. I love that. I love it because one of the reasons I love it, well, there's many reasons. I love it because it's an education, because you always have to research and study different things. I play a lot of historical characters, so I have to go and study. I played Himmler, I've played Martin Luther, I've played John Adams, I've played Paul Wolfowitz. So you have to go and study history. I left school at 15, and so I had no academic qualifications, but I had an amazing education as an actor over the last 34 years. So I love that. I love the creative diversity of it, and also I love the fact that people don't really know me. I'm not really recognizable as such. I mean, I do get recognized, but it's never. Nobody goes to watch an Eddie Marsan film. They go and watch a film that Eddie Marsan's in, and he may be good in that film, he may be bad in that film, and I like that. It means you just leave me the fuck alone.
Fair enough. Yeah, it's the best of both worlds, really. You've kind of nailed it there. I think. Is there a particular role that you get recognized for the most? Is there something that kind of...
In America, it's Terry Donovan. In America, they love Terry Donovan. And women loved Terry Donovan as well because he was a brilliantly written character. And all great characters are paradoxical in nature. You know, they have many different conflicting elements to them, really, and they're a balance. What was wonderful about Terry Donovan was, although he suffered from pugilistic Parkinson's and he had a disability, he could really fight anybody. He was really tough and alpha male. But also within the Donovan family, he was like the mother of the family. There was a lot of female energy in him. So that was fascinating as an actor to play, because the more, as you know yourself, the more complex the plates you spin, sometimes the easier it is. You just have to hold that complexity. You don't have to do anything.
Yeah, 100%.
So Terry Donovan is the one I'm recognized for most in the US. In the UK, I don't know. I mean, it depends. Different. It was very funny. When I was known, I did Mike Leigh's Vera Drake and then Happy Go Lucky, and I finished Happy Go Lucky on a Thursday on Holloway Road, and then on the Sunday I flew out to LA to do Hancock with Will Smith. And the funny thing is, when they both came out, that the people who recognized me for Happy Go Lucky were kind of Guardian readers, independent film. And then I'd be at a train station, and there was this young teenager. I think he was a young black teenager, may have been of African descent or Caribbean descent. But he said to me, "What the fuck are you doing on a train station?" He expected me to be in a limo somewhere. I had a different fan base, you know, which I enjoyed very much, you know, but different people recognize me for different things, really.
That really shows you the diversity there, though, to go from Happy Go Lucky to Hancock. Just not even in terms of the parts are very different, but also the projects completely different ends of the scale.
But acting is acting. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how big the project is, or when the camera's rolling, it's all about the acting. You know, if you're doing a short film and the camera's rolling, you have to be believable. When you're doing a big movie and you're being chased by a dinosaur, you still have to be believable.
Yeah. It's just the waiting around that's slightly different.
Waiting around is the hard thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Book.
Yeah. And in terms of, that first big break, I was trying to kind of figure it out. What was the moment where you went, "Oh, hang on a minute, I can do this, and I might be able to live off this, and it be an actual job for my, life."
It happened very, very. It happened very slowly. I left drama school, and I don't think I earned a living as an actor until 7 years later. So I would do fringe plays about every pub in London. I would do occasional appearances on the bill or EastEnders, but very, very, very rarely. Most of the time, I was working as a printer or a waiter or collecting theatre tickets. I was doing the jobs that all actors do, which is the kind of job where you have no authority, but you have the flexibility to leave it at the drop of a hat when a job comes in. So therefore, you're skint, but you're happy. You know other actors. But then what happened was, there was one year I did a play at the Bush, serving it up, a David Eldridge play. And then I went to the National, did a year at the National. I did The Homecoming with Michael Sheen. And then I did Chips of Everything, an Arnold Wesker play. And it was a solid year. And then I did, I think, a sitcom for the BBC. And then I've worked ever since, really. But I realized that in those 7 years before I earned a living as an actor, I was learning to act. But I always say this, but I was learning to act in anonymity. I was making so many mistakes, but no one was watching, and so I learned my trade. So by the time, the first really big movie I did was Gangster #1, and I had the scene with Paul Bettany, and I'd already knew what I was doing by then. People thought I came out of nowhere. I didn't come out of nowhere. No one ever does. No one had taken any notice of me for 7 years, then what happened was when I did the year that Vera Drake came out in the UK. Also, I went over to Memphis and I shot 21 grams for Alejandro Gonzalez Inarritu. So, and one was an American Baptist minister, and one was a British laborer in the 1950s. Very different parts. So I suddenly realized that I had the ability to have a career, a diverse career in both the US and the UK.
That's, I mean, that is, yeah. That the role in 21 Grams as well, that's that scene that you have in the prison cell where you're going at each other and you're I haven't seen it for a long time, but I think you're talking about God and it's like it's high amp. At that time, like that, did you feel pressure at that point? You've been doing it for years, but it's a different thing, isn't it? Going over to America and doing a film, I guess it's all a bit bigger. And is there pressure there, or is it just it's another day, it's another set, it's another character, and you're prepared, so it's play.
Well, I was a born again Christian when I was 16. I had a bit of a difficult time in life, and I became a Pentecostal Christian when I was about 16 for a period of about 6 to 9 months. So the theological, religious aspect of the character, and I'd see many Pentecostal preachers and things, and people talking in tongues and all that. So that was a part that I knew I could do. I had the hardest thing for me, the thing that I was most afraid of was the accent. I wanted to get the accent right. And the accent has always been something that I worked on, because when I first went to drama school, I had a very, very strong Cockney accent. Extremely, and at Mount View, they thought some people thought I would never have a career because I was too working class. My accent was too strong. And when I initially came out into the industry, all they wanted to do was cast me as a drug dealer or a thief or, a mugger or something, whatever it was. So I've always felt that my responsibility as an actor is to use all my physicality as a tool of my trade. So I'm not one of these people who thinks you shouldn't ask working class actors to lose the regional accent. It's a load of crap. They never lose their regional accent. But should they be able to do other accents? Of course they should. They should be able to play any part. And so I wanted to be. I didn't want anyone to define me as a working class actor. I wanted to be an actor. I wanted one of my big inspirations was Gary Oldman.
Yeah.
And a few years ago, about 12 years ago, Gary and I have a mutual friend, and he sent me a message, an email through our mutual friend, and it was just one line. He said, "Eddie, be an international actor." And that's what I've done since then. It was great advice, because what he was telling me to do was don't let anyone define you.
Yeah, I mean, he's a legend. Absolutely.
He is a legend. He's very big inspiration for me.
I mean, I think for any British actor, Gary Oldman is kind of, he's right up there, isn't he? And he's, again, like yourself, very diverse, played loads of different roles. Yeah, I mean, that's amazing though. Was that someone that you obviously, he's not much older than you, is he? I don't think.
No, he's about 10 years older, I think.
10 years older, but still someone that you have looked up to, I'm sure.
Yes. I come from the East End. I'm very, very, but I was never charismatic as an East End boy. Some guys have the
cheeky chappy and all that.
I was never that. I was always slightly more too insecure, slightly more complicated, I think, for different reasons. And what I used to do was I used to dance a lot. So I would lose myself in music and dance. I never had the confidence to have a girlfriend. I've got an unusual face now. I looked, imagine me at 18. Oh God, I look fucking weird. And so I was never that. There was never. Other people can do that much better than me. That kind of charismatic East End, you know, cheeky chappy ducker and diver. If I tried to do that, it's not who I was never that. And so it would be fake for me. I mean, I can slip into it, and
I'm gonna say next role. I want to see. This is what I want to see.
you know, but I can slip into it. I can slip into colloquialisms and things, because when I go back to the East End, and I go back often, I slip into it. But it was never who I was, you know. And I never wanted to be. I always felt that they wanted me to be a caricature of what they thought a Cockney was, and I never wanted to be that. You know, and so I looked up to people like Gary Oldman and thought, that's what I want to be. I want to be because he's like you know, I mean, he's just a proper actor, really. Yeah.
He's one of those people that if you don't know where he's from and you just watch his movies, you'll have no idea. And I feel like I didn't know what you were going to sound like before you came on the call. I was like, I wonder what you actually, because I've not seen any interviews with you. I've only seen you in movies. So I was actually quite like, a bit like Gary Oldman. I don't know what his accent's going to be. I don't know what he's going to sound like. I think that's got to be, you know, as an actor, you've got to be a chameleon, haven't you?
Now for a quick break. We'll be back to the episode shortly.
If you enjoyed this episode and want to support us, get early access and exclusive content and episodes, click to join our YouTube channel and become a member now.
Please leave us a positive rating. Add us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok at lifeinfilmpod. Essentially, please like and subscribe everything. It makes a huge difference. Thank you. Life in Film has partnered with Betterhelp to provide you with access to the largest online therapy service in the world. And it can all be done from the comfort of your own home, from a phone, tablet, or laptop. No commute, cutting down travel costs, and most importantly, it's affordable. With over 1,000 therapists in the UK, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a wide variety of expertise in mental health. If you need someone to talk to and you're thinking of giving therapy a go, BetterHelp is a great option. And being a listener of the podcast, you get 10% off. That's 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/lifeinfilm. That's betterhelp.com/lifeinfilm.
We are sponsored by movieposters.com. Are you a movie fan? I presume you are. Well, at movieposters.com, you can shop for all your favorite posters in one place. The #1 source for high quality, authentic movie posters. From new releases to cult classics and 100% authentic originals. Thinking of having a browse? Well, if you see a poster that tickles your fancy, as a listener of the podcast, you get 10% off. That's 10% off with promo code lifeinfilm10. That's promo code lifeinfilm10. So why not give it a go? And back to the show.
Report of activity at the northern bank.
What charge? Are you listening to me?
I'm gonna need to see you inside the bag.
Never heard of this story, and I didn't realize it was something that happened in the early 2000s, a bank heist. It's an insane story, and the fact that they haven't found the culprits yet. What was it like when you got, you know, this came onto your plate and kind of doing your backstory on this one? It must have been pretty interesting.
Well, I was sent the script. I was on holiday, and I was sent the script, and within the first 10 minutes, I think, you know, when the bank robbers kidnap the security guard's mum and the bank manager's wife, and they set the whole premise of the story, I then thought, I'm in. And then realizing also that there was a history between the bank manager and the security guard because of the troubles, I thought, what a fascinating premise. And it was so efficiently written, and I could see it all visually as I was doing it. There's something happening in the industry at the moment where it's very hard to make films at the moment, to make low budget independent films. So what people are doing is they're going back to just really good scripts. They're going back to basics, as it were, and rather than using big names, they're just trying to get very competent actors to tell good stories. And I think they have that with Aina and with Eva and with Michelle and with myself. We're just good actors. telling a great story, and it's quite encouraging, really, in many ways. It's very interesting the way, no matter how life throws obstacles, creativity is like water that will just find a way through somehow.
But I guess, yeah, the industry is changing all the time, and it's, since you've been doing it, a lot has changed. Obviously, streaming's come in recently, and yeah, it's a bit of a mad one. I'm an actor myself, and I kind of dabble in the low budget British film section of things. So I know what you're talking about there, where you say, like, actually at the moment it's hard, but good scripts are getting through, and the people that are talented and good actors are actually occasionally getting things made, which is great. And it's good to get the positive on that, because usually there's a lot of doom and gloom.
Yeah,
But I know I really enjoyed the movie. No Ordinary Heist, I should mention the name, obviously. Incredible premise, and a story that I'd not heard of. You mentioned there, obviously, it being a great script. Is that the key when you choose a role? You played so many characters, films, TV. Is that the number one thing? Is it the people involved, or is it the script?
It's a combination of the people involved. I was a big fan of Aina because I'm a friend of Timothy Spall. So I liked him in The Sixth Commandment. I thought he was amazing in that show with Tim. I also choose, whatever I choose tries to be completely different from the thing I've just done. So I love variation in my career as much as possible. And so I try to implement that within my choices. I don't have a fixed idea of myself, so I loathe for anyone else to have a fixed idea of me.
I mean, it really shows, because you have played. I can't even think of a role that you haven't played. There's a real breadth of different characters there, and you are, in the true sense of a word, a character actor. That maybe that I know your name, and I'm very familiar of your career, but I think everyone knows your face, and they're like, but he looks different. I'd seen him in this, or you're very familiar because you've been in so many different projects and played so many different roles. In terms of you mentioned there, taking a role on and getting to sort of play something different. Is there a role out there? Is there a particular thing that you haven't played? Maybe this was obviously based on a real story. Is there any real characters out there you'd like to play, or anything that you haven't, a box you haven't ticked that kind of intrigues you?
No, not really. I mean, it's not so much the physicality of the characters; it's the psychology, and I enjoy exploring that within any aspect, really. So I couldn't really answer that question. There's a specific role. I'd like to do more comedy. I quite people don't think that see me as doing someone who's conducive to doing comedy, but I actually have a healthy sense of humor. I just never get much. I'd like to do more comedy.
World's End, that's a comedy that you were funny.
Yeah, that's a comedy, but I played a very serious part in that. But
That's true, but you were still funny.
yeah.
To actors that are trying to get their foot in the door, they're trying to sort of get that first few roles. Do you have advice for actors?
Yeah, I think my advice for actors would be to work on the acting. I never got a job by being at a party or being at a premiere. I never
got that, because that is the worst.
I never got a job. I never got one job through socializing or anything or networking. Never once. Work on your acting. Be really, really good at your job. And if there's something that's your weakness, for me it was my voice. I had a very, very strong Cockney accent. And whatever is your weakness, that's the universe telling you that's what you need to work on. Work on that, and it will make that your strength, and then you will succeed. So I felt my advice is to work on the acting. Go and study classes. I left drama school in 89, and I studied 3 nights a week for 6 years after that. I kept going back to classes. So there may be a Lee Strasberg class, there may be a Stanislavski class, there may be a Meisner class, whatever. I'm not telling you what the method is, but go back and study. Go back and keep working at it, because if you're really good at your job, if you are excellent at your job, then you have more autonomy over your career. You have more control over your career. This business is 90% of people making money out of 10% of people who are talented. So be part of the 10% who are talented and you'll earn a living. That's my advice.
Amazing, man. I think that's a great way to end. And we've run out of time. I wanted to ask you about, you've worked with so many like Spielberg, all the like massive, like Michael Mann. We haven't had time to talk about all that stuff. But yeah, man, thanks so much. And
Thank you.
all the best with the film. I love it.
Thank you very much.
I hope it does well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Take care, man. Thank you so much.
If you enjoyed this episode and you want to support us, get early access and exclusive content, all ad-free, click and join the Life in Film YouTube channel and become a member now.
Thank you to our guest Eddie, and thank you to James and the team at Premier Comms. As always, thank you to our sponsors, Betterhelp and movieposters.com.